Hello, everybody. This is Derrick Kelly from Whitlock, the Director of Technical Service Operations, and I am moderating the AV Smackdown with our stars, Christopher Netto on the East Coast.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you? And Mark Coxon on the West Coast.
And I am doing well. And if you mean stars as in big, undulating balls of gas, that probably is an accurate description.
You can take that however you will. So, you can assign yourself the label how you would like. So we will go from there. But one thing I would like to kind of bring up and start as a conversation point is this has come up through multiple conversations with different people in the industry, but AV as a whole is kind of an entity that has kind of lived off to the side of a lot of different things previously and is able to be its own self, without necessarily as much oversight potentially as we should have as a group. So what topic I would like to talk about right now is, do you feel that we should have an independent agency that is not funded, directly or indirectly from influence, that should kind of be like a UL, but strictly for AV products, for AV manufacturers, to verify claims of specifications, to ensure that marketing speak doesn't necessarily trump actual specifications or capabilities of products. And I will allow whoever feels most passionate about this to start.
I'm waiting to counterpunch. You want to
go? Dude, I agree. I agree with him. We do need that third party. But here's my thing. And given a little bit of historical data, information to the question you're asking. For many years, I think AV was the cog, I guess, or the hub of a spoke, right? You have all these things feeding into projects, right? What other industry does a better job of speaking to all the others and translating that? So HVAC can go only so far, and then they were on an island. We can connect to HVAC if they allow us to, right? Control systems, that can all do it. We also are in the control room business. So our control rooms can essentially be the hub of that as well, right? You have other parts of building components and outside agencies that can come in through what we offer, because we're the only ones who we provide a wow factor in the display. Sorry, IT guys, you're pure IT guys that are out there going, we're the heart of it. No, you're the transportation. We make you look good, because where that thing parks is our display, right? For many years, AV was, our job ended at the wall jack, right? That was somebody else. How it went out was never our problem 15 years ago. It's our problem now. But the good thing is that we've stepped up as an industry and started bringing in the people like we've always done to help connect all these just disjointed things. Take a smart building as an example. Everybody has a piece of the pie to the building itself. AV not only is the display, but can also be the information that is running the building. From the digital signage to the control room, to the outdoor display, to coordinated light shows, because everybody wants a spectacle outside their building or in their lobby. Maybe it's show control running events. So I think we're the most, we're that translation piece, and that, everybody sit around the campfire, we're going to do the kumbaya part of that business. So I just wanted to provide that little bit of information. Now on a third party, Mark?
Well, thanks, Chris, but I don't think we need necessarily a third party to verify these things. If I ask Derrick, he's what, your director of operations, right, Derrick, at Whitlock? How many times does the bench test reflect your real world job site?
Very rarely for exact replication. So
yeah. So I mean, you could have a third party take this equipment, put it on a bench, connect it with cables, and even connect it with longer lengths of cables. but it's not going to replicate what you have when you're on the job site. I mean, you may have AV that's on different phases of power. You may have some type of ground loop issue going on. You may have 100 other things that I guess are the reason that AV people are paid to do these jobs in the first place, because we're the ones who can isolate those things that may be the reason that the product isn't working the way that it's supposed to. So I really think that, having a third party verify it, could it be a good thing to keep marketing people honest and make sure products do what they say on the spec sheets? It could, but I really think we would have a lot more luck if we actually started enforcing standards that we already have. So if you look at something like HDMI, they let you pick, X out of Y features to get your cable certified. Oh, pick 5 out of 8, and now you're an HDMI 2.0 cable. And they don't all have to pick the same 5. So you could get a cable that does different things. If they would do things like start testing cables for eye signature, make sure there's no distortion, make sure that there's good separation in the signal so that the source and sink can pick it up, we'd have a lot more success in our projects. We'd have more handshakes. We'd have less EDID issues, and all these things that we buy all these little kind of James Bond products to fix would be a lot easier to tackle if we could just get the people who write our standards to actually enforce them. I mean, I have people that call me and say, oh, well, this isn't passing CEC, or, oh, I'm using an HD-based T extender, but it only supports 3 out of 5 features, or this one supports 420 and this one supports 444. Goodness gracious. I mean, if we could actually just come up with a standard, and instead of I guess the cash grab of selling chipsets, actually make sure the products that we put those chipsets in do what they're supposed to do, I think we can eliminate that third party altogether.
We haven't done it as an industry for how many years? And it's been a comment of, oh, we just enforce the standards, everything would be fine. We're getting more end users involved in things. We're getting more end users involved in specifying products and being a part of things. So if we haven't done it as of yet, and we've allowed it to continue to be rampant, couldn't a third party group help to bring us back to what the standards should be, and enforcing the standards themselves, even putting out a list of these are the, this HDMI, they're compliant with this, they're not compliant with this. Couldn't that kind of level the playing field and make actually specifying products easier?
The funny part about this whole conversation, first of all, Mark is talking about HDMI with a straight face. Mark's history of accepting HDMI has not been he's not been very kind. But it's funny that you obviously mentioned HDMI. If I remember correctly, there was a collective sigh of when HDMI finally won out over other industry connections, the display ports, the DVIs. They're all still there. But more and more, who is pushing for the HDMI? It's the bigger uncontrollable forces that are out there, right? In this case, it's the Motion Picture Association that likes HDMI and all the security and stuff that it brings for copyright protection, right? But ironically, I would say 70% of what we do has nothing to do with feature films or, protected content. Now, there has been talk of, people starting to protect their presentations as intellectual property and want to be able to, show it and not let it be shown in unauthorized settings and stuff like that. But this industry, we will fight and gnaw and chew and delay and wait and snooze on it, table the meeting. You pick any corporate speak you want to delay this conversation. We will take it to the last second and then admit defeat to whatever wins out. Unfortunately, as much as I like the idea of the third party, because it's sort of, sometimes we get wrapped up in our own tech specs, and we all, as an industry, not per se any one manufacturer, as an industry, we get enamored by our own specs, or we get wrapped into the whole bigger speak and sort of lose sight of what's good for the industry. Having a specification that is this and that is followed through, third party would work. But
and also personal preference interjected into things, so where people, Mark hates HDMI and the rest of us can deal with this. We can, that personal preference may take the conversation away, especially with customers, end users, et cetera, that they may just get tired of listening to people on opposite ends of the spectrum discuss different transmission mediums ad nauseum until they finally just go do it themselves and stop even engaging the AV groups.
What it all comes back down to is that we will choose the simpler way 90% of the times. If you ask anybody, if there was an easy way, cheaper way to get it done, they'll do it. The ultimate way, fiber to fiber, transceiver, we don't care. We've been in that business, man. It's sad. We do need to understand how that stuff transports. But if you want to hit a default, everybody agrees, they'll say, get me fiber, put 2 connection points, and I'll get the stuff on the end to decipher what's going through that pipe. Nobody wants to encode and go through that.
That fiber question has been around for 10 years. And everybody keeps going, oh, we got to switch over to fiber. We got to switch over to fiber. And we still haven't done so.
Copper's cheap. That's why.
Yeah.
Copper's
straight up. There it is.
That's the reason we don't do it. I mean, anytime I had a job that I could get fiber into, we did it, and it solves a lot of problems, not only in things like what we're talking about with transmission. And just to clarify, I'm geeking out with you guys. I would never have this HDMI conversation in front of a customer, but since we were talking about third party and the problems, I thought I'd bring that up. But with the fiber conversation, I mean, it does a lot of great things. And even when you have things like we were talking about ground loops, or we're talking about, difference in power phases and things, or having to isolate racks from one another. If all your connections are fiber, you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore, or as much, because you don't have copper acting as a conduit or as a conductor between all these different devices.
So I think the gist of a lot of this is there's still a lot of potential for this. There's some potential in the industry for this being an avenue, but they're like everything with AV there's disagreement as to what the actual validity of some part of this is. So with that, I think that's a decent end to the conversation, at least right now, between the battle of the network stars of Chris and Mark. And thank you for joining us as part of the AV Smackdown.